My name is McCusker. I'm professor of graphic design in the School of Art, Design and Art History at Madison University. I'm also the associate director of the school. After I graduated with my Bachelor of Fine Arts from Eastern Michigan University in graphic design, I moved to Chicago. I worked as a designer for about 8 years. I went to graduate school in between then for a couple of years at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where I was able to teach a few classes. So when I moved back to Chicago and I worked, I was actually working as a designer in design firms as well as teaching at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And then I just realized that I wanted to keep teaching. And so that's when I came to Madison University, and I've been here for about 13 years. Major research interests right now are the book arts, specifically letterpress, making all the books by hand, and now paper making. I'm getting involved more with paper making. And the beautiful thing about this process is that it's sustainable. You don't need to have electricity for letterpress. It's all either foot powered with a treadle or hand powered, when you crank on the letterpress machine. It started with the development of my very first artist book through the Women's Studio Workshop, a residency grant that I received in New York. And I developed 70 limited edition books by hand, printed by hand. I silk screened all the imagery, all the covers, everything by hand. And that book is now in about over 20 permanent collections. And I was hooked. I was hooked by making books by hand and getting off of the computer. When I had that passion for it, I wanted to bring it to my students. And so I actually built a letterpress studio in my garage at home. And I purchased all the equipment with my own money. And for 3 summers, I taught letterpress printing to students at JMU through art and design. And then new facilities opened up, and I was able to get a new space to actually bring the book arts to JMU's campus. My research is for my students. I am not a successful educator if I do not have successful research, bottom line. And what I learn in the classroom and how I get them involved, and whether it's successful or not, they're still learning. Conferences are very important, international and national conferences where you are telling people what you are doing in your education program and how it's making an impact on your students and the field. And so that's where another area where my research is very important. And then with the artist books, getting into permanent collections. Publishing comes in various forms. As a professional graphic designer who practices and produces work for clients, we have competitions through very prestigious international and national publications. My book, The Prairies, is an artist book. It's a limited edition of 70 copies that I made by hand through the Women's Studio Workshop in Rosendale, New York. Prairies is about a rumination about our past and kind of questioning the sins of our father. This idea of this pristine landscape that was ruined by really the Homestead Act so people could eat. It's a beautiful poem by William Cullen Bryant, and in between are the facts about the Homestead Act, which destroyed it. But I really thought about how can I make this book impact the viewer, one with its beauty and how it was created, and they can say, wow, this was all made by hand and letterpress and silkscreen and no computer technology whatsoever involved. But two, I really need to think about this. We should be preserving our lands and what happened back in the 1800s. I would like to have it. Anybody who views it, I want it to be an experience. Artist books are all about the experience. They're not your typical books. You're not just going from page to page and reading. It's an event. You don't realize when you open it up the red flags are going to come popping out at you. And that's what artist books are about. They're about character and an event and an experience for the viewer. And so that's what I want when people look at my book, The Prairies. It really is when a student comes back to me and says, I just got a job at Penguin Publishing in New York City, or I am the deputy design director at Wired magazine, or I'm working for Microsoft as a user experience designer. That's huge. Coast to coast, the students are doing wonderful. And I know that as a contributor to the graphic design program with my other colleagues, that's the impact that I've had. Because I've been there. I know what they're going through. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it working in Chicago. And when they go out to these big cities and they make it, that really is just my proudest moment. every opportunity to do what I love. And that's what I love about this university. Collaboration is very, very big for them. And I'm very proud of that. I go to many different, conferences where people are like, you can do that? They're letting you do that? I got to stay in this one little box, I got to stay in this one area. Not at James Madison. I mean, they embrace collaboration. They want to see it happen. They want to see the university grow and work with each other so everyone can learn from one another and know what's going on. Because we all have something to contribute to each other. And I think that's important. But I think that's what James Madison is really great at, is collaboration.
This video was produced by